Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. I wish you all happy Christmas and or happy holidays at the end of the year 2025. I hope all of you are doing well. It's great to be here for another year. And I also wanted to let you know that on my coffee that I will leave a link in the description of this video. You can buy free posters for like the bigger projects that Razz is working on. I will post a specific video just about this later on next year, at the start of the next year. But I just wanted to let you know that if you want to help Razz finance this massive project, it will be a great help if you could check out the posters or, buy us a coffee. Thank you. Enjoy the video. A message to Scott Cafton, Chapter 10. No one dared to move. They all sat around their unconscious friend in a defeated manner. It was Baz who first came back to reason. "Reese!" he yelled up the stairs. "Where's his phone?" Reese had spent what felt like an eternity going through Louis' drawers, his cupboard and his suitcases. He threw clothes over the floor, ripped the covers off the beds, snatched pillows away from the seats. He had heard Louis scream, yet the phone could not be found. In a sweaty and flustered panic, he heard Baz call to him. The reminder of the question he had been trying to answer made his heart beat harder. Where else would you put a phone? Where did Louis have it last? Reese couldn't remember seeing his youngest friend with it this morning. He didn't have it when he was out golfing either. Where else did Louis go this morning? The bathroom. The pink-haired man looked down at Louis' unconscious heap, his mouth agape as a feeling of dread washed over him. He's not breathing. Fuck! He's not breathing! Baz could remember Louis' pale body in the hot tub from yesterday as if it had happened a few seconds ago. Will pushed the hopeless feeling from his mind and came up with a new plan. They needed to get Louis breathing again. Does he actually have a pulse? Is his heart still beating? Reese saw it as soon as he rushed into the bathroom. Louis' phone was in the sink of all places. He hurled towards it and grabbed it with a shaking hand. He turned the phone screen towards him and looked at it hesitantly. The screen was smashed. Not the sort of smashed when you drop it on the floor. No, it had been smashed on purpose. There was what looked like stab marks all over the screen. Not giving up hope, he turned it on and to his surprise, it worked. Most of it worked anyway. No one was ready when Louis suddenly gasped, sucking in a deep breath that audibly scraped against the inside of his throat. The musician was instructing the Ryans on how to put their younger friend into the recovery position, and they were halfway done when Louis gripped the rug next to him with one hand and clutched at his chest with the other, keeping his eyes clamped closed. "Oh my God, Louis?" Will asked quickly. Ryan began spurting out questions, but Buzz shut him up quickly. "Louis, can you hear us?" The musician asked slowly and calmly, despite his voice breaking. Louis still had his eyes shut and was still breathing heavily, sweat trickling from his forehead. The black substance he coughed up stuck around his mouth as it hung open to take in deep breaths. Will waited patiently, but Louis never answered. "Do you remember what happened?" Baz asked slowly, shuffling onto his knees. Louis rolled onto his back with his arms spread either side of him. There was a slight smile on his face that couldn't be explained. After a few seconds of this, he pushed himself up into a sitting position. Reese gave the phone an uncertain stare. Some of the pixels were glitching out and flickered through different colors, while others were completely black and didn't work at all. He swiped the screen to get to the emergency phone setting, cutting his thumb as it slid over the checked glass. The number pad appeared. Reese wanted to scream in frustration. The glass over the 9 button was practically non-existent with the amount of stop marks over it, and the pixels were not even turning on. And to really rub the salt in the wound, Reese could see the 4G bar in the top corner. It was the only phone that had connection, and it was useless. Forgetting that he didn't own that phone, he threw it against a wall, watching as shards of glass erupted from the screen, which had gone completely black the moment it struck the tiled surface. It fell in the bath with a crash. "Whoa!" Will exclaimed. "Take it easy, Louis, please. Slow down a second." But Louis didn't respond. He just shuffled into a more comfortable position. His head turned to the musician. He slowly opened his eyes. Will froze. "Does anyone know what a confusion looks like?" he asked, trying to be logical. "That's not normal. This isn't normal." Louis' smile widened as he saw the purple-haired man squirm uncomfortably, but he said nothing. "Louis?" Ryan asked quietly, trying to work out what Will meant. His younger friend glanced at Ryan and slowly turned his head towards him. Ryan's eyebrows shot up and his eyes widened in disbelief. "What the hell?" Baz breathed, his throat feeling tight. Louis' eyes... Something was wrong. This whole situation was beyond wrong. Their younger friend gazed ambitiously around the room as if he was taking in his surroundings for the first time. He eventually looked down and raised his hands, flexing the fingers experimentally and turning his wrists. He made a noise similar to a satisfied giggle. Reese slowly made his way back downstairs, feeling completely lost. What were they going to do? One of them should run to the reception. It was probably a 20-minute walk, so they could get help pretty fast if they sprinted. Or where was the enchanted village reception? A choked sob escaped his mouth. "Don't give up yet, Reese. Not while you still need to help Louis." That's when he realized something was missing. Louis wasn't making any noise. He rushed down the last few steps and into the lounge. He was standing up. He was standing on his own 2 legs. Louis, look at me a second," Will said quickly, a sense of alarm in his voice. "I know you probably don't understand what's going on, but if you sit down, we can tell you, alright?" He gently took Louis' hand and tried to guide him to the sofa, but Louis stood still, ignoring his friend's attempts at trying to help. He was staring at the little statues on the coffee table. "Louis, you've had a seizure of some sort, and we need to get you some help. Can you sit down for us?" the musician explained. "How is he standing?" Reese asked. Everyone hadn't heard him come downstairs. Their youngest friend tugged his arm away from Will and looked at Reese. The Scotsman couldn't stop himself from staring at Louis' eyes. They were white. The irises, which were usually a grayish blue, had turned to the lightest shade of purple, and the pupils had turned milky. He smiled at Reese, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was cold. It was calculating. "You didn't find his phone?" Will asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Reese shook his head, transfixed by Louis' eyes. How? How is that possible?" Their youngest friend went back to looking at the table ornaments. Ignoring any other questions from his friends, he walked forward and picked one up and inspected it. It was black, heavy china owl that was around the size of a tennis ball. He grinned as he bounced and weighted the object in his hand. "Louis, can you hear us?" Baz repeated the musician's question from earlier. Louis looked at Baz, keeping the same grin plastered on his face. "Yes." He looked towards Will, tilting his head to one side like a curious dog, and gripped the statue in his hand tighter, his knuckles turning white from the pressure. It was the Scotsman who first realized what was about to happen. He rushed forward, "Louis, no!" But he was too late. Without warning, Louis stepped towards Will and raised the ornament in his hand. The purple-haired man didn't even have time to react as the little owl statue came smashing down on his forehead. He slumped to the floor without a noise. Louis' grin widened and he started to giggle. That soon turned into a maniacal laughter. He looked around at the 3 other men around him as if he was eyeing up his options. Everyone took an instinctive step backwards. "Lou, listen to me." Reese tried to reason with Louis. "Take some deep breaths and look at us. We are not here to hurt you. We are your friends." The attempt just made the younger man laugh harder. Ryan backed into the coffee table. He couldn't go anywhere. Louis took this as an opportunity to lunge towards his older friend, slamming into him as he tried to knock him off balance. Baz snapped out of whatever shock he was in and grabbed the hood of Louis' hoodie, yanking it backwards with all of his strength. His attempt was rewarded with an elbow to the nose which collided with a sickening crunch as he staggered backward, clutching at his face with a pained groan. Louis had never stopped laughing. He dived back towards Ryan, who didn't have time to brace himself. He fell backwards and smashed the table in half. His head hit the ground and suddenly his ears were ringing and everything had a haze around it. He crawled away from the wooden wreckage and collapsed as his body refused to move. Through bleary eyes he watched the insanity unfold. Reese tackled their younger friend to the floor with a look of regret on his face. He told Louis sternly to calm down for a second, and he held the younger man's wrist against the rock. The owl statue rolled out of Louis' hand and his laughter stopped for a brief second before continuing at a much lower and darker pitch. Reese couldn't work out what happened, but the Scotsman suddenly rolled to the side and clutched at his stomach. Louis jumped to his feet, grabbing the ornament again and turned to Baz. The pink-haired man said something in a pleading tone and raised his empty hands. He was punched under his ribs. The air left him and he fell to his knees, gasping for breath. Reese was standing back up, but a black object flew through the air and hit him in the head. He rolled to the floor and his empty, open eyes stared directly at Ryan. Blood trickled down his forehead. Baz was kicked flat onto the floor and Louis crouched above him with his knees digging into Baz's chest, wrapping his hands around the pig-haired man's throat. Baz clamped his hands around his younger friend's arms and desperately tried to pull them away from him. Louis' grin widened as he increased the pressure. Ryan couldn't see it, but Louis was drawing blood as his nails were clawing into the pink-haired man's skin. Baz was gasping for a breath that wouldn't come and tried to push his friend off of him, but his head soon flopped to the ground and his arms fell beside him limply. Ryan looked at his older friend in terror. His body wouldn't let him move. He fought against the feeling and in a feeble attempt managed to weakly extend an arm towards Baz. Louis stood up and casually stalked towards him, grinding his foot into Ryan's knuckles as he came close to them. Ryan yelped and looked up at Louis, quivering in fear. Everything had happened too fast to understand. How did their younger friend go from a cheery, kind and caring person to someone writhing on the floor in pain to this? Nothing but a shadow of himself. Nothing but an empty shell of who he was earlier. Ryan knew he was partly to blame. He knew that Louis needed help, but did he tell anyone? No. He just let Louis suffer alone. "I'm sorry," he said in a hushed voice. Louis' grin faltered for a brief second, but only for a second. He gave a smirk and raised his foot. The last thing Ryan saw was a heel flying towards his head. Then everything went black. Hello, friend. If you have somehow stumbled upon this end of the video, then I have a message here. not for Scott Cawthon, but actually for the author and the amazing group of people that have actually came together to read this book. Not make this book, alright? But the little fandom, the group of people that have met after reading. This message is gonna be kind of short. It's unscripted, as you can see. That's why I'm rambling very weirdly right now. But would you look at that? It's another year. That's crazy. I came into this group very randomly. I didn't even know there was a group, right? I just read the book and I thought, wow, I would really love to have more people read this or hear this. And I thought, well, I can make an audiobook on this. And I just thought that I would text the author for, and somehow I got into this group of people chatting about this. And honestly, that was one of the best things that happened to me. This group has been one of the greatest group of friends that I ever had in my life, so I honestly could not be more glad about this. Honestly, I am so proud of all of you, all of us, right? And I am so happy that it's another year that I get to be a part of this music that too, absolutely amazing community. And I just think to any of you, I wish you all a great and successful next year, because I am proud of all of you, and I am so happy to have all of you with me throughout this journey that is life, right? Even though it might not always seem like it, or it might not be the best thing ever, or all of us seem a bit busy. It's just great to catch up with you or see you rambling somewhere. It always is so good to see that you're still here, right? So I wish you all a great next year, and it's true, just another year of studying or through a tough job, something that is important to like, or exercising. I am proud of you and I'm so happy for you, and I wish that next year it will be even better, or maybe a bit easier if it was hard for you these days. So with that, I have a lot of more to say, but sometimes words are just that, right? They are words, and they cannot describe how glad I am for this community, for you as people, and for everything that has been going on in these past few years. I am looking forward to see what more community So with that, actually now, I am pouring myself a glass of something that is very close to me also. And with that, I am wishing you all Happy New Year and cheers to all of you. And may the next year who we can all be. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to all of you.